Chapter 2. I find it strange to think that at home in a drawer there is the first part of a play I once started to write called Saul, and a stack of poems as well. I spent so many evenings on them. We all did things like that. But it has all become so unreal to me that I can't even imagine it anymore. When we came out here, we were cut off, whether we liked it or not, from everything we had done up to that point. We often try to find a reason or an explanation for this, but we can never quite manage it. Things are particularly confused for us 20-year-olds, for Kropp, Mueller, Lear, and me, the ones Kantorek called young men of honor, of iron, otherwise known as iron youth. The older men still have firm ties to their earlier lives. They have property, wives, children, jobs, and interests, and these bonds are all so strong that the war can't break them. But for us 20-year-olds, there are only our parents, and for some of us, a girlfriend. That isn't much, because at our age, parental influence is at its weakest, and girls haven't really taken over yet. Apart from that, we really didn't have much else. The occasional passion for something, a few hobbies, school. Our lives didn't go much further than that as yet. And now, nothing of it. Nothing is left of it at all. Of it all. Kantorek would say that we'd been standing on the very threshold of life itself. It's pretty well true, too. We hadn't had a chance to put down any roots. The war swept us away. For the others, for the older men, the war is an interruption, and they can think beyond the end of it. But we were caught up by the war, and we can't see how things will turn out. All we know for the moment is that in some strange and melancholy way, we have become hardened, although we don't often feel sad about it anymore. If Mueller wants Kemmerek's flying boots, it doesn't make him any more unfeeling than somebody who would find such a wish too painful even to contemplate. It's just that he can keep things separate in his mind. If the boots were any use at all to Kemmerek, Mueller would soon walk barefoot over barbed wire than to give a single thought to getting them. But as it is, the boots are objects which now have nothing to do with Kemmerek's condition, whereas Mueller can do with them. Kemmerek is going to die, whoever gets them. So why shouldn't Mueller try and get a hold of them? After all, he has more right to them than some orderly. Once Kemmerek is dead, it will be too late. That's why Mueller is keeping an eye on them now. We have lost all our ability to see things in other ways because they are artificial. For us, it is only the facts that count, and good boots are hard to come by. We were not always like that. We went down to the local recruiting office, still a class of 20 young men, and then we marched off en masse, full of ourselves, to get a shave at the barber's, some of us for the first time, before we set foot on a parade ground. We had no real plans for the future, and only very few of us had thoughts of careers or jobs that were firm enough to be meaningful in practical terms. On the other hand, our heads were full of nebulous ideas which cast an idealized, almost romantic glow over life and even the war for us. We had 10 weeks of basic training, and that changed us more radically than 10 years at school. We learned that a polished tunic button is more important than a set of philosophy books. We came to realize, first with astonishment, then bitterness, and finally with indifference, that intellect apparently wasn't the most important thing. It was the kit brush, not ideas, but the system, not freedom, but drill. We had joined up with enthusiasm and with goodwill, and they did everything to knock that out of us. After 3 weeks, it no longer struck us as odd that an ex-postman with a couple of stripes could have more power over us than our parents ever had, or our teachers, or the whole course of civilization from Plato to Goethe. With our strong, wide-open eyes, we saw that the classical notion of patriotism we had heard from our teachers meant, in practical terms at that moment, surrendering our individual personalities more completely than we would ever have believed possible, even in the most obsequious errand boy. Saluting, eyes front, marching, presenting arms right and left about, snapping to attention, insults in 1,000 varieties of bloody-mindedness, we had imagined that our task would be rather different from all this. But we discovered that we were being trained to be heroes in the way they train circus horses, and we quickly got used to it. We even understood that some of these things were necessary, but that others, by the same token, were completely superfluous. Soldiers soon sort out which is which.